Chapter 844. The so-called dormitory was a small villa with 3 floors. It was located between the school and Monsieur. Gu Mengmeng stood at the entrance of the villa with a dazed expression. What's wrong? Snake stood at the entrance and used his body to block the door. With one hand in his pocket, he turned back to look at Gu Mengmeng, who was not coming in. Gu Mengmeng snapped out of her trance and said, I have worked many jobs and stayed in many employee dormitories, but none of them look like this. I went to primary school, don't lie to me. Snake chuckled. Of course he knew which jobs she had worked and which employee dormitories she had stayed in. He even knew when her roommate, 7th Auntie's cat, had been sterilized. So? Snake asked softly. Gu Mengmeng shook her head and took a step back. This is definitely not the employee dormitory. I'm not going in. Gu Mengmeng's guarded look made Snake frown. He did not like her distant look. His tumang was most suited for a heartless smile. This is your dormitory. You can only stay here. Snake's voice was slightly cold. Gu Mengmeng asked, there are other employees staying here. Snake took a deep breath and nodded. Gu Mengmeng was skeptical. She knew that Monsieur was a multinational company and had always treated its employees well. But it should not be so good to the extent that it used a villa as a dormitory for its employees, right? Snake clenched his teeth. Page 7, paragraph 9, line 4, Gu Mengmeng's head went numb. She rushed in without another word. Evil capitalism. Using money to talk about this again. But what else could she do? She blamed herself for not reading the contract carefully when she signed it. She had been thinking that there was a free lunch falling from the sky. Who knew that it was a trap and a trap? She had sold herself out with her own hands. Who could she blame? She did not even have a place to stay now. Even eating was a problem. Where could she find the $450,000 to compensate Monsieur? Snake's expression was rather helpless. She had obediently given in and listened to him. But it was because of money and not because of him. If this girl really managed to gather enough money one day, would she throw the money away and leave without another word? Wasn't 100 times too little? It should have been 10,000 times, no, it should have been 1,000,000,000 times. However, when he thought about how she stayed by his side because she couldn't pay the penalty fee, why did he feel so awkward? Gu Mengmeng surveyed the interior design of the villa. This was definitely not a decoration that a dormitory should have. Every detail reeked of extravagance. Gu Mengmeng even felt that she might not be able to afford the footpad at the entrance with a month's salary. Didn't you say that there are other employees living here? Where? Gu Mengmeng turned to ask Snake. Snake placed his hand on Gu Mengmeng's shoulder casually and naturally. He said nonchalantly, I am the CEO of Monsieur. Although I am the boss, I am also one of the employees. As if struck by lightning, Gu Mengmeng was petrified on the spot. Snake hugged her and walked in while he sat on the sofa. He pulled back his arm and Gu Mengmeng fell into his arms. This fall brought Gu Mengmeng back to her senses. She struggled to stand up and said, although I lack money, I reject all immoral transactions. If you insist on using the employment contract to sue me for breach of contract, then go ahead. I'd rather go to jail than sell myself. Chapter 845. Gu Mengmeng's face flushed red. Everything you are thinking of now is an immoral transaction. Snake nodded with a look of realization. Then, he said thoughtfully, so cooking is an immoral transaction, so you are planning to take the salary of a special assistant without doing any work, right? Cooking. Gu Mengmeng was stunned. Snake nodded. What else did you think I was going to do? Gu Mengmeng's face turned even redder. She really wanted to kill herself. Who was he? The great CEO of Monsieur. Not to mention how many socialites were trying to get close to him. Just based on how popular he was in S university, as long as he was willing to open one of his arms, the class bell, the school bell and the school bell who would pounce on him would break his bones. Why would such a person need to have unspoken rules with her? TSK, she was thinking too much. It was quite awkward to think too highly of one's feelings. But Gu Mengmeng was thick-skinned. She got used to it after being embarrassed for so long. Chuckling, Gu Mengmeng asked, "Then what do you want to eat, senior? I will make it for you." Snake used his chin to point at the open kitchen. "Anything. Eat whatever you have. I'm not picky." "All right." This was good news. Gu Mengmeng headed straight into the kitchen. She opened up the 3-door fridge one by one. It was filled with everything and they were arranged in an orderly manner. It was the kind of neatness that even an obsessive-compulsive person would find comforting. Gu Mengmeng took out the ingredients from the fridge and made a simple stir-fried asparagus, scrambled eggs and tomatoes. Then, she steamed a mandarin fish. Then, she made a bean sprout with soup. 3 dishes and 1 soup. Going to the countryside. After Gu Mengmeng finished setting the table, she took off her apron and put it away. When she returned to the table, she saw that Snake had already sat down quietly. He did not touch his chopsticks and just looked at her quietly. It was obvious that he was waiting for her to eat together. How long had it been since someone waited for her to eat together? Gu Mengmeng's heart was touched for some reason. Sitting opposite Snake, Gu Mengmeng picked up a piece of fish and placed it in his bowl. "Senior, try this fish and see if you like it." The corners of Snake's lips curved upwards gently as he said, "I like it." Then, he sent the fish into his mouth. Gu Mengmeng clicked her tongue and said, "You're just being perfunctory. You like it even before eating." Snake fixed his gaze on Gu Mengmeng and said gently, "I like everything you give me." Gu Mengmeng choked on her rice and coughed violently. Her face flushed red, not knowing if it was because of her coughing or because she was shy. She waved her hands and said, "Let's eat, let's not talk while eating." Snake didn't say anything more and just started eating quietly. Not a single piece of leftover food was left. Gu Mengmeng was washing the dishes in the kitchen while Snake stood at the door and watched. A warmth and happiness that he had never felt before spread from his eyes. "Tu Meng, so this is how it feels to have you in my life. Even though it's only the first day, I seem to be addicted." Gu Mengmeng finished washing the dishes and wiped her hands dry. She turned around and was shocked to see Snake standing at the door. She asked, "Why are you standing here?" Snake held on to Gu Mengmeng's wrist and led her to the 2nd floor. He pushed open the door to a room and said, "Here, your room." Chapter 846. Snakel chuckled and inched closer to Gu Mengmeng. His lips stopped at the tip of her nose. "Of course, if you don't like it, you can stay in my room." "I don't mind." "I mind," Gu Mengmeng said and stepped into the room. Then, she swung her arm and closed the door. Looking at the door at the tip of his nose, Snakel narrowed his eyes. If he directly asked her to stay with him, she would definitely run away. So, he prepared this room for her. But, he still preferred the days in the cave. Being able to see her whenever he looked up always made his mood good. Thinking about this, he felt that this door was an eyesore. On the other side of the door, Gu Mengmeng held her uncontrollable little heart as she squatted on the floor. She took in deep breaths. Was she being seduced? Was she being seduced? Gu Mengmeng rushed into the washroom and washed her face with cold water to cool down. She patted her face to wake herself up. Although there was no such thing as a match in this era, the gap between the two of them was as big as the Milky Way. In that case, they should not have any strange thoughts from the beginning. After all, it was not easy to be the cowherd and the weaving maid. Sitting back on the bed, Gu Mengmeng took out the 20-page employment contract from her backpack and started reading it carefully. Only then did she realize that other than the first 3 pages, which were normal rules and regulations, from the 4th page onwards, there were some strange contents. The more Gu Mengmeng read, the more her head hurt. She felt that she might not have signed an employment contract. This was a contract to sell her body. Gu Mengmeng felt that even the senior servants in the olden days had more rights than her. Take care of the CEO's 3 meals and daily necessities. Follow the CEO's wishes. Carry out the tasks assigned by the CEO unconditionally and complete them excellently. Not allowed to leave her post under any circumstances. Not allowed to do things that the CEO did not allow. What did it mean to not allow things that the CEO did not allow to happen? Then came the evilest 794, page 7, paragraph 9, line 4. Gu Mengmeng leaned backwards and threw herself onto the bed with a loud roar. Evil capitalism. Knock, knock, knock. Someone knocked on the door. Gu Mengmeng did not need to ask to know who it was. Patting her face, her gaze landed on the humiliating treaty of 794. Taking a deep breath, Gu Mengmeng opened the door with a smile. "Senior, what's the matter?" Snakel's gloomy mood, which was affected by this broken door, completely dissipated when he saw Gu Mengmeng's obviously fawning smile. She used to look at him like this, smiling with a hint of flattery but not pretentiousness. Yeah, the feeling of being fawned upon was pretty good. Snake strode straight into Gu Mengmeng's room, then pushed the door open and entered the washroom. Gu Mengmeng was dumbfounded as she watched Snake walk into the toilet. She was speechless the entire time. Don't tell me you're here to borrow the toilet. Is this the only room in this villa with a toilet? Tu Meng, come here. Snake stuck half his body out of the washroom. Gu Mengmeng did not know why Snake wanted to call her Tu Meng, but there were only 2 of them here. If Snake could not see some indescribable things, he would definitely call her that. Sweeping her gaze across the scattered contracts on the bed, Gu Mengmeng smiled brightly at the 450,000. Coming, aside from the topic, today's updates are over. Yeah, recently, my QQ reading ratings have dropped quite a bit. My darlings, can you help me leave a message in the comments section and give me a 5-star rating? Please, please. Oh, also a notice, 259 and 274 are the most popular sections. Darlings with a fan value of 800, please enter the verification group as soon as possible to verify your fan value, then transfer to the VIP group to wait for the benefits group number, 4927799273. Then the third thing. I announce today's updates are over. See you tomorrow. Chapter 847. Shave my beard for me. Snake handed the razor to Gu Mengmeng with a serious expression. Gu Mengmeng held on to the razor with a conflicted expression. She had never touched such a thing in her entire life and it looked rather sharp. What if she scratched his face? How much would she have to pay for it? You're not willing. Snake looked down, his gaze cold. Gu Mengmeng could almost feel that he was about to blurt out the 7th page, 9th paragraph, 4th line. No, it's just that senior is too tall, I can't reach it. Gu Mengmeng measured herself. Actually, it was not that she couldn't reach it, it was just that it was a little strenuous. Snake's large hand circled around Gu Mengmeng's waist, then he lifted her up lightly, making her sit on the sink. Snake's muscular waist was wedged between Gu Mengmeng's legs, his upper body leaning forward slightly, inching closer to Gu Mengmeng, saying, "Here, this height is just right." Gu Mengmeng instinctively pushed Snake, saying, Don't, senior, don't come so close to me." Snake chuckled, as if he didn't understand Gu Mengmeng's shyness, saying, "If I don't come close, how are you going to shave?" Gu Mengmeng's face was so red that her breathing became uneven. She said softly, Senior, I really don't know how to use a razor. How about I teach you?" As Snake said, his large hand covered Gu Mingming's small hand, holding the razor and moving it around his face. The white bubbles faded away in a rhythmic pattern, revealing a devilishly bewitching face right in front of Gu Mengmeng without any concealment. "Is this your first time shaving a man?" Snake asked despite knowing the answer. Gu Mengmeng blushed and nodded. "Good." Snakel planted a light kiss on her forehead, before pulling away in vain. He threw the razor into the basin and washed his face with clean water. Then, he pulled Gu Mingming's little hand over and poured the toner onto it. Then, he looked up at Gu Mengmeng with squinted eyes. Gu Mingming's blush deepened. She knew he was asking her to apply toner for him, but why did he look like he was asking for a kiss? Clearing her throat, Gu Mengmeng instinctively pulled her body backwards. Then, she clapped her hands lightly to evenly distribute the toner before applying it on his face. Her movements were gentle and slow. She could feel the warmth of his skin from her palms every time she rubbed it on his face. Gu Mengmeng felt that if she opened her mouth, her heart would jump out from her throat. But Snakel maintained his smile the entire time. After the toner was applied, he applied essence and face cream. After that, he carried Gu Mengmeng down from the sink and held her hand as they walked out. Where are we going now?" Gu Mengmeng stumbled behind Snake and asked. Snake chuckled. "I'll bring you to buy some clothes." "No need, I don't lack clothes." Snake stood still and turned around. He gently lifted Gu Mingming's chin and looked down at her, saying, "You lack the clothes I bought for you." Gu Mengmeng was stunned. Gu Mengmeng pressed the hand that was not being held onto her chest out of reflex. "Damn it! My young girl's heart." Gu Mingming's small actions pleased Snake. He loved every moment when her heart moved for him. Chapter 848. The white fog gradually returned and the empty space that was the size of a home theater was once again covered. Gu Mengmeng stood up from the long bench and stretched lazily. She turned to look at the beast deity and said, "Booking the whole place to go shopping. TSK. Snake is really inhumane." The beast deity chuckled and said, "Because he also has your memories in his mind. He knows that you especially like to read those novels with domineering characters, so he recorded down every plot you liked and used the past 18 years to set them up one by one, waiting for you to realize all your dreams one by one after meeting you." Novels with domineering characters, I don't even remember it myself. Gu Mengmeng lowered her head and chuckled. She was indeed a fan of novels in the past and often read all kinds of domineering novels during her free time. But after transmigrating to the beast world, she seemed to have never thought about the content and plot of those novels again. But Snake, who had merged with her memories, remembered every piece of information in her mind that even she herself had forgotten. To him, every second that he waited for her was a long torment. He had to do something related to her to calm his crazy thoughts, otherwise, there was a high possibility that he would rush into some hospital and kidnap some newborn baby girl. But in that case, he would only get a fake that looked exactly like Gu Mengmeng. A Gu Mengmeng without those memories was not the complete Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng did not continue asking about Snake, nor did she mention that Wabi wanted to send him to fight with Snake. She just rolled her eyes and asked another question, "Stray beasts, do they still have a chance to mate?" Wabi's expression changed. The beast deity also stood up and stood beside Gu Mengmeng, asking, "Are you referring to Elvis's parents?" Gu Mengmeng nodded and did not deny it. The beast deity's gaze carried a hint of probing as he asked, "You already know what they did to Elvis, but aren't you angry? You still want to help them?" Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, "It's not that I'm not angry, it's just that compared to being angry, my heart aches more for my man. Killing one's parents may not be a strange thing in the beast world, but in our world, it's too depraved. I don't want my man to bear such a nightmare. Moreover..." Gu Mengmeng lowered her head and chuckled, "Li's parents are already dead, my parents, don't mention them. If possible, I want to give Elvis a complete family. This is selfish, and also true. The beast deity remained silent for a moment before smiling. He rubbed Gu Mingming's little head and said, "Do you know? You're so different from Wang Xiaoxin." Gu Mengmeng had inherited Snake's memories from his father, so she had a certain level of understanding of Wang Xiaoxin's way of doing things. She was a stickler for iron-fisted policies, and she was very clear about rewards and punishments. He strongly advocated a tooth for a tooth, an eye for an eye. Repaying evil with good, how to repay good. Gu Mengmeng could not say that Wang Xiaoxin's way of doing things was wrong, but everyone had their own way of living and their own obsession. Wang Xiaoxin desperately wanted to go back, but perhaps her obsession was with family. Gu Mengmeng smiled and said, "We are originally different. Everyone in this world is unique, isn't that so?" Chapter 849. The beast deity leaned close to Gu Mingming's ear and whispered the method to her. Gu Mengmeng nodded and turned to leave without saying a word. The beast deity stood behind her with a smile until she disappeared into the thick fog. He then said calmly, "Next time, remember to come back and watch television with me." Gu Mengmeng opened her eyes and was in a daze for a moment. She calmed herself down and realized that she had returned to her home in Saint Nazaire. Elvis and Leah were not around and the one guarding her was actually Wabi. This was very strange. With those two fellows' temperaments, how could they allow a single male to be alone with her? Frowning, Gu Mengmeng asked, "What happened?" Wabi looked away and instinctively avoided Gu Mingming's gaze. "Nothing." Gu Mengmeng chuckled. "My mental age is more than 200 years older than yours. You are still too young to lie to me." Wabi simply raised his head. "There are some things but I am not in the mood to tell you. Wait for your mail to come back and ask him yourself." Gu Mengmeng was suddenly choked speechless. That's right, Wabi took good care of her. But she also knew that it was all because of Snake. Could the two of them even be considered friends? Wabi was neither Elvis nor Leah. He was not even anyone in the Saint Nazaire tribe. He indeed had no obligation to obey her. Perhaps it was because she had been the messenger of the beast deity for too long that she had gotten used to the feeling that everyone should listen to her. Gu Mengmeng suddenly realized that she had been tainted with the most despicable habit when she first came to the beast world. She lowered her eyes in deep thought. Wabi saw her like this but could not bring himself to be stubborn. He sat by the bed and said, "Hey, are you serious? So petty. You are like this just because I rebutted you." Gu Mengmeng shook her head with a smile. "No, I just realized that I can't be a white lotus and am a little depressed." Wabi frowned in confusion. Gu Mengmeng said, "A white lotus that emerges from the mud without being tainted is one. But I rolled in the mud and am now covered in mud. Forget it, since I can't be a white lotus, I will pretend to be a lotus root." "What nonsense are you talking about?" Wabi snorted disdainfully, then shook his head in slight disdain. He did not continue the topic and only pretended to be nonchalant as he asked, "Did you ask about sending me to see Snake?" Gu Mengmeng thought about it. She did ask, but the beast deity refused to answer. If she couldn't do it, the beast deity would probably tell her that she couldn't. Therefore, he should be able to do it, but he needed some sort of opportunity. Since the time wasn't right, he couldn't reveal it, right? Gu Mengmeng took a deep breath and looked at Wabi's face. She nodded seriously. "I did, but when will you send me to see him?" Wabi's eyes lit up. All the lethargy from the past few days had been swept away and he was filled with excitement as though he had been injected with chicken blood. This made his earlier nonchalance look rather comical, but Gu Mengmeng had no intention of making fun of him. After all, how deep and urgent was her yearning for someone she had been with for more than 800 years? Shaking his head, he said, I can't reveal the secrets of the heavens, but there are always fortuitous encounters. Speak human language. Wabi-I roared. Gu Meng Meng was taken aback by his roar. It seemed like no one had ever shouted at her like this ever since she transmigrated, not even the previous snake. Chapter 850. He didn't love her and would never love her. He had no ulterior motives towards her, but Snake was the key that linked them together. No matter who it was, the fact that Wabi-I had gone through fire and water for her would never change, right? Wabi-I's hair stood on end from Gu Mingming's stare. He slapped her head and frowned. What are you laughing at? Gu Mengmeng shrugged. I am laughing at you. So you are, a fart. Wabi-I was choked by Gu Mengmeng. He rolled his eyes. I really don't understand why he would like you. His taste is really problematic. Gu Mengmeng lifted her chin. Your old partner is Ellie. I don't think your taste is any better than Snake's. Wabi-I snorted in disdain. What partner? She is just a tool for me to level up. She has some use for me. I don't like her and it doesn't prove my taste. Gu Mengmeng gave him a I don't believe you expression. Then tell me, what kind of females do you like? I will help you pimp one another day. Wabi-I snorted. What do I like? Females are all troublesome. Don't do unnecessary things and hinder me from improving my skills. Gu Mengmeng laughed out loud. So you really like Snake? Wabi-I was first taken aback. Then, he roared in anger. I treat you as a friend but you treat me as a pervert. Gu Mengmeng said with a serious face. You are not right to say that. You are discriminating. Everyone has the right to choose their own partner. Some people just happen to like someone of the same gender. How is that a pervert? Wabi-I was taken aback by Gu Mingming's words. He was naturally no match for Gu Mengmeng in terms of eloquence. After a long while, he still couldn't come up with a proper reply. In the end, he just harumphed loudly. It seemed like he was really angry. Gu Mengmeng didn't continue to tease him. She just patted his shoulder. I really asked my father about sending you to meet him. But he didn't reply to me. It was obvious he wasn't willing to tell me. But don't worry, I will remember this. In the future, I will help you ask my father every time I go back. Maybe one day he'll be annoyed by my questions and tell me. Only then did Wabi-I's expression lighten. He cleared his throat and said, If you annoy him, will there be trouble? Gu Mengmeng shrugged. Who knows? I don't know him that well, but I've never seen him lose his temper before. But at least he won't kill me. After all, he still wants me to watch TV with him. Wabi-I nodded and said, I will remember this favor. Whether or not it succeeds, I will thank you. Gu Mengmeng placed a hand on Wabi-I's shoulder and smiled. We are brothers, there's no need to thank me. Gu Mengmeng was now clear about her relationship with Wabi-I and felt more comfortable interacting with him. But Wabi-I was clearly not used to Gu Mingming's sudden change in style. He shifted his shoulders unnaturally and frowned when he saw that he couldn't shake off Gu Mingming's hand. Can you not touch me when you are talking? Seeing that Wabi-I was about to dodge, Gu Mengmeng became even more playful. She grinned. What's wrong with a hug? You even hugged me at the bottom of the sea. What did I say? Chapter 851. Gu Mengmeng nestled in Li's arms and watched the show. She asked Elvis to hit Wabi-I's weak spot one moment and then asked Wabi-I to sweep Elvis's lower body the next. She did not seem worried at all and looked more like she was watching a live WTO broadcast in the wilderness. Her playful manner did not seem like she had anything to do with Wabi-I at all. As a result, Elvis and Wabiai's fight turned into an exhibition match. Winning or losing was not important as long as it was exciting enough. Gu Mengmeng cheered as she watched, while Elvis and Wabiai ended up laughing. The two of them stopped fighting in unison. They were both injured but not fatal. The two of them walked towards Gu Mengmeng, as if they were not the ones fighting with their lives just now. Leah handed Gu Mengmeng over to Elvis and went out to cook. Wabiai took a deep breath and said, "I am going back to the Snake King Valley." Gu Mengmeng nodded and replied, Wabiai kept his usual joking manner and turned to look at Gu Mengmeng. "It will be winter after the rainy season. I have to wait until the next big rainy season before I can come out of the Snake King Valley. So, you better be quiet this winter and don't cause any trouble. If anyone comes looking for trouble, just bear with it. Next year's rainy season, I will kill my way back with you." Parting between friends would always bring with it a sense of sadness. She did not feel it in the past, but after this trip to the deep sea together and spending so much time together, she was used to this fool's simple and violent way of getting along. She felt a little reluctant to part with him all of a sudden. Actually, it was just one winter and it was not like they were going to part forever. But she just felt a little sad. Gu Mengmeng sniffled and suppressed her emotions. She gave a heartless smile and slapped Wabiai's shoulder, almost breaking his bones. She laughed. "That's not possible. I am so powerful now. If someone bullies me, I will usually fight them back on the spot. Waiting for you, TSK, I can't afford to wait." Wabiai also laughed. "You are too disloyal. Can't you wait for me when there is something fun to do? I've been fighting Snake for the past 800 years, and now that I've finally discovered that there's a group battle, you didn't even wait for me." Gu Mengmeng laughed out loud. She draped an arm over Wabiai's shoulder and smiled roguishly. "It's fine. If you are bored during the rainy season next year, I will let Elvis fight with you. If that doesn't work, I am still around. I promise I will slap you so hard that even your mother won't be able to recognize you." Wabiai was incensed. He jumped up and pointed at Gu Mengmeng's nose. "I am going back to recuperate this year. Who knows who will be the one to beat up next year's rainy season?" Gu Mengmeng raised her eyebrows and said, "All right, then you better fatten up well so that I won't have a bad feel next year." Wabiai stiffened his neck. "You too." With that, Wabiai walked out of the cave without turning back, disappearing from Gu Mengmeng's line of sight. Gu Mengmeng thought that she would shed a tear or two to act pretentious, but she did not. Perhaps Snake's memory had an effect on her emotions. This was the first time Gu Mengmeng felt the separation between men. So this was how it felt. Feeling but not hurt. If there was wine, she should toast him. Chapter 852. Elvis sat behind Gu Mengmeng and gently hugged her in his arms. He kissed her hair and said with a hoarse voice, "Due to fatigue, when we were at the Stray Beasts base camp, Cole led the Stray Beasts to ambush Saint Nazaire." Gu Mengmeng nodded. "What?" Gu Mengmeng immediately sat up straight and turned to look at Elvis, asking, "What about the casualties?" Elvis shook his head and hugged Gu Mengmeng back into his arms, saying, "They did not linger to fight and their goal was not to kill, so they only clashed with a few tribesmen they met by accident. But strangely, they did not kill them and just ran away after beating them to the ground. So no tribesmen died and Leah has already taken care of the few injured, they will recover in a few days." Ran away after beating them. This was not the usual style of the Stray Beasts. Didn't they all fight to the death? If the sneak attack was not to kill, then it was to steal. But what was there in the tribe that was worth stealing? Gu Mengmeng frowned and her entire body tensed up instinctively. People, they came to steal people. Gu Mengmeng clenched her fists and said in a voice that was trembling with anger, "Who is missing from the tribe?" Elvis sighed. He really wished that Gu Mengmeng could be a little slower, but she was so sharp now. So sharp that it made one's heart ache. Hedda, his brothers and Sandy's entire family have all disappeared. Elvis's voice was filled with helplessness. If it was possible, he did not want to tell Gu Mengmeng these things. But he had promised not to hide it from her in the future. Gu Mingming's body went limp and she leaned her head against Elvis's chest. She gritted her teeth and said, as expected, "Looks like Cole is forcing me to go to Sodor no matter what. Ian has already flown to Sodor to scout out the situation. Let's wait for him to come back, all right." Elvis did not want Gu Mengmeng to act rashly, especially when the other party had obviously dug a trap for her to jump into. Gu Mengmeng nodded and did not move from Elvis's arms. She said weakly, "I know, you and Leah must have been thinking of countermeasures these 2 days, right? I will not act rashly anymore. If I act on impulse, it will only make the situation worse." "Yes." Elvis then heaved a sigh of relief. He was really worried that Gu Mengmeng would charge towards Cole and risk her life for the sake of those wolf pups. Elvis was relieved to hear her thinking this way, but on the other hand, he felt his heart ache. The females of other families could do whatever they wanted, so why did his female have to be sensible? In the end, he was still too weak. He didn't have the strength to condone her lawlessness. He had clearly said that he would give her the best in the world, but in the end, he still forced her to grow up and become sensible. Sorry. Filled with guilt, Elvis hugged Gu Mengmeng even tighter. He whispered into Gu Mengmeng's ears, "Leah and I will definitely settle this well. Don't worry, leave it to us." Gu Mengmeng's heart was filled with guilt. Gu Mengmeng nodded. "Yeah, I know. I believe in you." Chapter 853. For the next 3 days, Gu Mengmeng behaved very calmly. She knew that Leah and Elvis were extremely busy, making all the necessary preparations. There was not much time left until the rainy season. With last year's experience, the people in the tribe had already started to stock up on food for the winter. The 16 valued females had just joined the family this year, so the old members of Saint Nazir taught them how to stock up on food and how to identify the vegetables that could be stored. The tribe was in full swing, and as the witch doctor, Leah was naturally the first to bear the brunt of it. Meanwhile, Elvis was responsible for staying at home to take care of Gu Mengmeng. These 3 days, she did not sleep well. Every night, she would frown and talk in her sleep, but it was a pity that she was calling out the names of other males. For example, Hedda, Qi Xian, etc. She was very quiet, so quiet that it made one's heart ache. Elvis knew very well that this silence was due to her forceful suppression of her uneasiness. She did not want to add to their troubles, so she endured the torment alone. They could not bring Gu Mengmeng over when they were defenseless against Sodor, so they had to wait for Ian to bring news back from Sodor before they could adjust their plans and bring Gu Mengmeng over. But before that, what should he do to make Gu Mengmeng feel better? Early in the morning, Gu Mengmeng was still lying on the bed in a daze when she heard Elvis and Leah whispering something. Her eyelids were too heavy, so Gu Mengmeng did not open her eyes. She just tilted her ears and listened carefully. "Are you sure it's like this?" Leah was puzzled. Elvis's voice was not loud, but he said with certainty, "Yeah, I've seen it before, it's like this." Lee's voice was a little hesitant. "It looks weird." Elvis was silent for a moment, then said, "Maybe, we don't understand." Gu Mengmeng listened for a long time, but still did not know what they were talking about. Her mind was already clear, so she could not fall asleep. Gu Mengmeng propped herself up and rubbed her eyes, looking at Elvis and Leah. Gu Mengmeng, after 3 seconds of silence, Gu Mengmeng suddenly burst out into earth-shattering laughter. Ha 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 ha. Elvis and Leah looked at each other, the atmosphere rather awkward. They did this to make her happier, but she was clearly laughing, but why did they feel that something was off? Gu Meng Meng looked at her bikini top half on Leah and the bottom half on Elvis. Her face was flushed from all the laughter. She could not breathe properly, sprawled on the bed and banged on the bed. Lee's chest was much wider than a woman's, so even though the bikini on his upper body was similar to Gu Mingming's, it did not cover any part of his body. Instead, he wore a pair of sexy little spectacles in between the 2 points, looking extremely comical and indescribable. Elvis was even more exaggerated. The lower half of the bikini was a thong, which could barely cover a girl's private parts. With Elvis's size, how could he possibly cover it? Therefore, the small underwear looked like a pornographic version of the SM binding method of sumo wrestling. It was full of a sense of incongruity. On the other hand, some of Elvis's masculine characteristics were in a state of complete freedom. Ha gu gu. Gu Mengmans, gu gu. Gu 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 long, gu 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 gu. Gu 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 s. Looks like you really like swimwear. Digression. Chapter 854. Leah pinched the bridge of his nose and placed one hand on Elvis's shoulder, saying, "It doesn't look like she likes it no matter how I look at it. Let's change out of these clothes first, or else she will really suffocate from laughing." Elvis nodded and placed Gu Meng Meng, who was laughing so hard that it was vibrating, beside the bed. Then, he and Leah went to the side to take off the bikini and change back into their own beast-skin dress. When they returned, Gu Meng Meng was still laughing. Forgive her, she really could not control her prehistoric energy anymore. For the entire afternoon, the sky above St. Nazaire was filled with strange and explosive laughter. Elvis and Leah held their foreheads helplessly, but they could not do anything about Gu Mingming's way of laughing. They could not go up to comfort her, because Gu Meng Meng would laugh even harder every time she saw their faces. Until she laughed until she lost all her energy, Gu Meng Meng leaned against the bed weakly and twitched, barely stopping her laughter. Elvis's heart ached for her, laughing so hard that she could not stop. He wanted to make her happier, but he was especially uncertain now. Did he succeed? He hugged Gu Meng Meng in his arms and stroked her back gently, saying, "I saw that you have been feeling uneasy these few days, so I wanted to make you happy. I remember you said previously that you admired that swimsuit Prince Charming, saying that you would forget all your troubles when you see him, and admire the way he focuses and works hard on his target." Kissing Gu Mingming's brows, Elvis's blue eyes were filled with deep affection. With a self-deprecating smile, he chuckled, "Can't I do it if it's not him? Xiao Meng, I suddenly feel jealous." Ha! To be honest, Gu Mingming's heart was extremely sensitive after being pinched by Elvis like this. She did not believe that Elvis did not know how comical, funny, and embarrassing he looked in that swimsuit. But in order to please her, he swallowed all the shame and wore the strange clothes. Did she trample on his feelings when she laughed like that just now? Was he hurt? Gu Meng Meng hugged Elvis back gently and rubbed her little face against his chest. She wanted to explain, but she heard Elvis's low and hoarse voice coming from above her head. "There's a male in your heart that I have never seen before and can't imagine, even though I know that both of you are separated by a world and he can't snatch you away from me." But I still panicked. "Xiao Meng, tell me, what can I do to surpass him and become the person you admire the most in your heart?" Gu Meng Meng looked up and kissed Elvis's chin. She smiled gently and said, "I have not admired him for a long time. From the moment you stretched out your hand towards me in the lake, you became my Prince Charming. But you were smiling like that just now." Elvis's tone was slightly bitter, with a tinge of helplessness. Gu Meng Meng laughed and said, "Sorry, I laughed too much." Elvis frowned, but he could not bear to reprimand her. He only said, "Compared to him in a swimsuit, Leah and I are still too far apart, isn't it?" Gu Meng Meng shook her head and said, "I laughed because you guys were wearing female swimsuits, not because you guys are worse than him." Elvis raised his brows and his eyes shone. He asked, "So, the problem is with the clothes and not me?" Chapter 855. Elvis's gaze deepened and the corners of his lips curled up slightly. "So, should I use another method to please you? For example, using your favorite, body?" Pfft. Gu Meng Meng felt a warmth in her nose and she covered her nose that was about to spurt blood. She lost her balance and when she turned around, Elvis was already half lying on his back, leaning against the wall at a 45-degree angle. Gu Mingming's waist was restrained by him and she was sprawled on his chest like a cat. Looking up, she met his lazy and wanton chuckle. His faint blue eyes were filled with overwhelming passion and Gu Mingming's mind was in a mess. Before she could think, Elvis kissed her deeply on the lips. His nimble tongue engulfed every bit of sweetness in her mouth. It was so domineering and lingering that she could not resist. On certain matters, Gu Meng Meng could not withstand his teasing. Moreover, Elvis seemed to be getting more mature and steady day by day. His entire body exuded the unique hormones of a male. He was different from Leah. He never acted coquettishly in front of her but gave her the broadest and most solid chest. It was undeniable that no matter how strong Gu Meng Meng was now, the most reliable person in her heart was Elvis. Even if he was not as strong as Snake, even if he was not as good at pleasing her as Leah, he was still the most solid support in her heart. As long as he was around, she would be at ease, so if it was Elvis, no matter when, she would always be at ease. Giving herself, to him. A round of pleasure, to her heart's content. When Gu Meng Meng could not even beg for mercy and fainted, Elvis reluctantly let her off. When Gu Meng Meng woke up again, it was already 2 days later. Using Snake's Beast King powers to recover after pleasure, Gu Meng Meng really felt that no one else would do that. But if not for her Beast King level powers, she would have become a paralyzed patient by Elvis. Gritting her teeth, Gu Meng Meng looked at Elvis angrily and said, "You've really learned bad things." But Elvis enjoyed Gu Mingming's wild gaze that was like an angry cat. He lightly licked his lips and said, "All thanks to Xiao Meng for your good guidance. If it wasn't for your request, I really wouldn't have thought that there was such a thing as bullying. Next time, let's change it to love, okay? If it's too rough, your body won't be able to take it, and you'll faint halfway. It's quite distressing. Get lost." Gu Mingming's face was extremely red as she casually grabbed a piece of beast skin and threw it at Elvis. Elvis caught the beast skin and covered Gu Meng Meng with a hood. He whispered into her ear, "Now you've recovered. Where do you want to roll?" Gu Meng Meng withered in an instant. Damn, although it did not hurt anymore, she did not have any energy left in her body. Sighed, the legend of the hungry wolf was really not a joke. Unable to provoke him, Gu Meng Meng could only lower her head and plead softly, "Hubby, I'm still tired, don't torture me, let me rest." Elvis's lips curled into a playful smile as he scooped Gu Meng Meng into his arms. He kissed her brows and said, "Yeah. I always listen to Xiao Meng." Gu Meng Meng blushed and did not say a word. Elvis placed his chin lightly on the top of Gu Mingming's head, his gaze deep. If there was a way to let her live a relaxed and happy life without any worries, how good would that be? Heaving a sigh of relief, Elvis finally opened his mouth and said, "Let's set off to solder after lunch." Aside from the topic, a joyous, hearty. How can I express the surging emotions in my heart? Hurry, there's no more time, hurry up and board the train. Look at the car plate, 4927792773. After boarding the train, look for the administrator to check the tickets. Babies with more than 800 fans can enter the VIP cabin to enjoy the special treatment of overflowing meat fragrance. Note, this train is not heading to the kindergarten. Please do not sneak onto the train if you want to go to the kindergarten. This train is not heading to the kindergarten. Please do not sneak onto the train if you want to go to the kindergarten. Chapter 856. Yeah. Gu Mengmeng didn't raise any questions and just responded with a single word. If nothing had happened at Sauder, Ian should have brought Sandy, her family, and the 3 little ones back. In that case, Elvis would tell her directly and she wouldn't have to go to Sauder anymore. If the situation at Sauder was dire and something bad happened to Sandy and the 3 little ones, then she wouldn't have to go to Sauder anymore. So, Ian should have returned and the news he brought back was neither good nor bad. Sandy and the 3 little ones were safe, but probably not free. Cole's motive was to force her to go to Sauder, so he would naturally know when to stop. But she really didn't understand why Cole wanted her to go to Sauder. Just to catch up. Their relationship wasn't that good yet. During lunch, Oriton, whom she hadn't seen for a long time, appeared punctually with his hunted prey. Gu Mengmeng looked at his resentful eyes and couldn't help but want to put 2 more pieces of meat in his bowl to compensate for his psychological trauma. Her family had gone to the deep sea and were held up for a few days at the stray beast camp on their way back. After returning to St. Nazaire, they were held up for another 2 days as they accompanied their lonely father to watch television. After bidding farewell to Wabi, they slept for another 2 days with Elvis. Adding up all the time, Oriton looked like a raging tiger that had been trapped in a cage for a long time. The rage of a trapped beast and his obsession for food made him exude a strange and pitiful aura. Strangely, Gu Mengmeng felt as if she had left her dog alone at home for half a month on a family vacation. It was a feeling of guilt for abandoning a small animal. Well, this small animal looked rather fierce and had facial paralysis. After the meal, Gu Mengmeng looked at Oriton, who was carrying a pot to wash. She stretched out her hand and said that. Oriton stood still and turned to look at Gu Mengmeng. I'm going to. Ah. Gu Mengmeng was taken aback. Oriton was extremely determined. Aren't we going to Sauder? I'm going to. Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips and said awkwardly, if you leave too, St. Nazaire's fighting power will be too weak. If we encounter any danger, there won't even be someone to hold the fort. Oriton placed the pot down and turned back to face Gu Mengmeng. He knelt down on one knee and looked straight into Gu Mengmeng's eyes. He said in an extremely serious tone, I am the guardian of the messenger. It is my duty to ensure your safety at all times. Also, I don't want to eat raw meat anymore. It's hard to swallow. The second half of the sentence was the main point. Elvis wrapped his arms around her waist and pulled her into his embrace. He bit her tiny earlobe and said in a low voice, bring him along, I see that Canwa looks up to him a lot. With him around, those little ones will be much more obedient. Gu Mengmeng's eyes lit up. Gu Mengmeng had a headache thinking about the interactions between Elvis and Canwa. Then, he looked at Oriton, who looked like he did not want to be separated from the delicacies and that Lee's cooking was the love of his life. He nodded helplessly and said, all right then, we can only let Ian stay behind to look after the house. After the group had settled everything, Gu Mengmeng looked at the cave and could not help but feel emotional. This was her first home after coming to the beast world. But why did it seem like the time she could stay at home was getting lesser and lesser? Along the way, Gu Mengmeng could not help but smile when she saw her tribesmen preparing food for the winter. At least this winter, there would no longer be any females who would eat their partners due to a lack of food. This was a good thing. Aside from the topic, there's new news about the explosive updates. The advertisement has already been approved. The editor wants me to save the chapters now and push it after I save up to 200,000. Well, there are only 140,000 chapters saved now. Susu will try her best. But babies, it's really difficult to save chapters while maintaining a daily rate of 9,000 chapters. Please give me a little more time and loving encouragement, alright? Chapter 857. When they arrived at Sauder, the scene was very different from what Gu Mengmeng had expected. She did not see any stray beasts, nor did she see any desolate or violent scenes. On the contrary, everything was orderly and thriving. Oakley and Berit, along with Sandy and the three little ones, stood at the city gates to welcome them. Compared to their warm and natural manner, Gu Mingming's worried and anxious manner of rushing all the way here seemed a little strange and baffling. Mummy Jiaoliu was the first to pounce into Gu Mingming's arms. The other two brothers were a step later and also pounced into Gu Mingming's arms. Having not seen her sons for a long time, Gu Mingming naturally missed them. She hugged her three sons and kissed them one by one. She looked them up and down carefully to make sure that they were all healthy and safe. Only then did she relax. You must have had a tough journey, right? Let's enter the city first. Sandy held Gu Mingming's little hand and led the children into the city. As they walked, she said, "That person in your family has prepared a surprise for you." Gu Mingming was confused. That person in our family? She turned back to look at Elvis and Leah. The two of them shook their heads silently. Their eyes were filled with a trace of melancholy as they instinctively rubbed the little wolf cubs' heads. Gu Mingming instantly understood that they were referring to Cole. Frowning, Gu Mingming did not reply. Why was Cole in their family? This was too strange. Sandy was not someone who would joke about such things. She was so afraid of Leah and Elvis that she would definitely not dare to touch this topic in front of them. Moreover, she knew how much Gu Mingming hated Cole because of Qi Xian. She would never joke about such things. But, looking at her, it was too natural, as if she was speaking the truth. She swallowed the questions that were at the tip of her tongue. Perhaps this was not a good time. And something must have happened to Sandy. It would be a waste of time to ask now. Sandy sent Gu Mingming to the gates of the stone castle. Then, she patted Gu Mingming's shoulder and said, "Here, I will send you here. Remember to tell me tomorrow what kind of surprise he has prepared for you. I am very curious." Gu Mingming smiled faintly and said, "All right." Sandy lowered her head and looked at the three little ones. Mommy definitely won't have time to take care of you tonight. Go home with mother-in-law. The three little ones pouted, but still nodded and followed Sandy obediently. Oakley bowed to Gu Mingming and said, "There are many things to do in the city, I will take my leave first." This subordinate, the Oakley who would tell her that he liked her with a blushing face, and who would force himself to accompany her to pick honey even though he was scared to death, would not be able to go back, right? Ever since her identity as the messenger of the beast deity was exposed, he had been very distant from her. After inheriting Snake's powers, she seemed to have completely lost this friend. "It's been hard on you, go ahead." Gu Mingming had no choice but to go along with everyone's changes. If she wasn't herself anymore, then what right did she have to ask everyone to treat her the way she used to be? After all, there would still be burdens. After Oakley left, Berit looked at Gu Mingming and remained silent for a long time before saying slowly, "Be careful, don't be rash." Chapter 858. Elvis and Leah each took one side and pushed open the main doors of the stone castle. The so-called surprise was just Cole standing at the door, smiling at them with his head tilted to one side. Gu Mingming frowned and secretly searched for Qi Xian, but there was no sign of him. After waiting for a long while, Cole suddenly laughed. "I thought you would throw a tantrum at me the moment you see me. Looks like my beloved master is not angry at me, right?" Gu Mingming had originally wanted to ignore Cole, but now that he was the only one who knew where Qi Xian was, she did not want to argue with him. She directly asked, "Where is Qi Xian?" Cole lowered his head and chuckled, looking very pleased. "Little Xian is a sensible child. He knows that we have not seen each other for a long time, so he purposely avoided me to give us some intimate space." Gu Mingming walked around Cole and directly sat on the stone chair placed in the hall facing the door. The stone chair was covered with a complete white tiger skin, giving it a little of the feeling of the loyalty gathering whole. Gu Mengmeng had one foot on the edge of the chair, her other hand casually resting on her knee. Her other foot was on the ground and her elbow was propped against the armrest of the stone chair. She supported her temple with the back of her hand, giving off the domineering aura of a female bandit. Elvis and Leah had been standing behind her the whole time. They did not speak and just guarded her. Gu Mengmeng said, "Let's skip the pleasantries. We are not that close. Tell me directly, what is your motive for luring me here?" Cole smiled bitterly. He looked rather wronged and helpless as he said, "I saw that you were getting along well with Sandy and the rest just now. I thought that you had already adjusted your emotions on the way here and were no longer angry at me." Gu Mengmeng laughed coldly. "I know how to adjust my emotions and adapt to the situation. But this does not stop me from holding a grudge." Cole spread his hands, looking as if he could not do anything to Gu Mengmeng. He said in a doting tone, "Can't you think of me in a positive light? Or maybe, I just want you to have a more comfortable winter." Gu Mengmeng clicked her tongue impatiently. She then retracted her gaze from Cole's face. "The one who makes me the most uncomfortable here is you. So, keep that disgusting face of yours. I am afraid I will not be able to control myself and slap you to death." Cole did not get angry and just maintained his usual elegant smile. Back then, Gu Mengmeng only felt that he was polite and gentlemanly, but now, she felt that he was disgustingly hypocritical. Cole did not avoid Gu Mengmeng's disgusted gaze at all. He smiled vaguely and said, "You said you hate me, but you still followed in my footsteps, didn't you?" Gu Mengmeng didn't answer Cole's question and just asked, "Where's Qi Xian? I want to see Qi Xian." Cole took a step forward and said, "I told you, little Xian hid on purpose to give us some intimate space. So, as long as you don't let down little Xian's good intentions, little Xian will naturally come out after we spend a warm and sweet day together. After all, he misses you very much too." Gu Mengmeng pinched her fingers and said, "So, are you threatening me now? You want me to give myself to you for my son?" Cole shook his head. "My dear master, I am your most loyal servant. Why would I force you to do something you don't like? Of course, if you need it. Cole is very willing to pledge my loyalty to you. This body, please feel free to play with it." Chapter 859. Elvis smiled devilishly and charged towards Cole without a second word. "Beat him up, other than I love you," this was Elvis's favorite sentence to hear Gu Mengmeng say. Especially when the target was Cole, that was simply, his sharp claws and fangs were already unbearably hungry. However, facing Elvis's lethal attack, not only did Cole not retaliate, he did not even have any intention of dodging. He just had a sly smile on his face, as if he was playing into my hands. Indeed, the feeling was not right. Elvis did not have the time to see what had happened and only felt that his fist had hit something, but it was definitely not Cole. A black shadow flew out from Elvis's attack and landed in a corner with a thud. Looking over, it was Qi Xian. That tiny body kept twitching and blood spurted out of his mouth. He was on the verge of death, but he raised his head and stared at Elvis warily. It was as if Elvis dared to attack Cole again, he would pounce on Elvis without a care for his own life. Gu Mengmeng panicked the moment she saw Qi Xian. Elvis had used all his strength in his attack on Cole. If it had been a direct hit, Cole's head would have been severed from his neck. The tiny Qi Xian had not evolved yet, how could he withstand the 5th level Elvis's punch? "Leah, hurry!" Gu Mengmeng rushed towards Qi Xian without a second word. She wanted to hug him but did not dare to touch him. I wonder if his bones are broken. Were his internal organs all right? She had seen first aid attempts on television. It was not wise to move a severely injured patient as it could cause a second injury, Gu Mengmeng knelt beside Qi Xian. Her heart ached so much that tears streamed down her face. She could not wipe them clean no matter how hard she tried. Her sons were her flesh and blood. Especially Qi Xian, who had suffered more than the other three. Her guilt towards Qi Xian had already reached its peak and suffocated her. Now, it was like a flash flood that could not be stopped. Leah knew how much Gu Mengmeng cared for Qi Xian and naturally did not dare to be negligent. But the moment he approached, Qi Xian bared his teeth and took a defensive stance. He even pulled at his own wounds and struggled to stand up. "You think I care?" Elvis's cold and sinister voice came from above her head. Gu Mengmeng was stunned for a moment. She understood that Qi Xian must have said something while whimpering. Her heart ached for her son's injuries and she was anxious to know what he had said, so she could not help but vent her anger on Elvis. "Why are you so fierce? My son is injured, why are you yelling at him?" Elvis gritted his teeth and clenched his fists tightly, refusing to speak. "What did he say? Tell me, what does he want? Did he say that he was in pain? Did he say that he was in pain?" Gu Mengmeng was on the verge of breaking down. She really wanted to give herself 2 tight slaps. She should not have allowed Elvis to attack Cole. She clearly knew that Qi Xian was in Cole's hands, so what if he teased her a little? Why couldn't she just endure it? Elvis pulled Gu Mengmeng into his arms, allowing her to pounce and behave atrociously in his arms. He glared at Qi Xian and let out a few low whimpers, replying to Qi Xuan's words using the way wolves communicate. Chapter 860. Cole took 2 steps forward and squatted down, shielding half of his chest behind Gu Mengmeng. He placed one broken hand on Gu Mengmeng's shoulder and the other on the hand Gu Mengmeng was using to stroke Qi Xuan's head. He smiled at Qi Xian. "Little Xian, be good. Don't be afraid. Your mother and I will stay by your side. She won't leave, and neither will I. However, you have to get well soon. Don't let your mother worry, because if she does, our hearts will ache, won't it?" Qi Xian nodded obediently. He looked at Gu Mengmeng expectantly, as if waiting for her reply. This gaze forced Gu Mengmeng to resist the urge to fling Cole away. Discomfort spread from the places he touched and nausea spread throughout her entire body. But Gu Mengmeng didn't want Qi Xian to be upset. She clenched her teeth and forced a smile. She comforted Qi Xian. "Be good. Mother will accompany you." "Oh woo." Qi Xian called out weakly again. Gu Mengmeng didn't understand what he was saying. She turned to look at Elvis, only to see that his face was so black that ink could drip from it. He gritted his teeth and glared at Qi Xian. "Don't push your luck." Gu Mengmeng frowned and looked at Leah. Lee's expression didn't look too good, but he didn't say a word. Left with no choice, Gu Mengmeng looked at Cole. Cole chuckled. "Children are just a little willful. Moreover, you were the one who beat him up. Shouldn't you satisfy his willfulness and make up for your mistake?" "Ah, I forgot. Mighty Elvis has always believed in the principle of the strong get all the benefits. He won't give in even to a cub that Gu cares so much about." With that, Cole turned to look at Qi Xian with a stern expression. "Little Xian, don't be rude to Mighty Elvis. He is your mother's first partner. If you act like this, your mother will be put in a difficult position." Qi Xian sniffled pitifully and whimpered. Gu Mengmeng didn't expect Elvis and Leah to translate for her. She just looked at Cole. "What is my son saying?" Cole smiled, his gaze light as he said, "Little Xian is afraid of Sir Elvis and Sir Leah, so he hopes that the 2 of them can leave." Although it was just a child spouting nonsense, Lord Elvis's punch almost took Xian-er's life. Gu should empathize with Xian-er's fear, after all, he was still a child. Just take it as a child's words. Gu Mengmeng felt extremely uncomfortable. Damn it, Cole's words made it seem as if he was Qixuan's biological father and Elvis was an outsider. I don't need you to apologize for my son. Gu Mingming's displeasure was written all over her face. Cole wasn't annoyed. He just lowered his head and said, I have crossed the line. But if you must punish someone, please punish me. Qi Xian, can't take any more torture now. Gu Mengmeng wanted to hit someone. Cole's words meant that Elvis's biological father and her biological mother had tortured Qi Xian. But Qixuan's injuries were indeed caused by Elvis. Damn it, I don't even have the right to retort. This F***ket up situation. Gu Mengmeng didn't want to continue talking nonsense with Cole. She shrugged off his arm and then said to Qi Xian in a gentle voice, Qi Xian, be good. Let Daddy Leah take a look at your injuries, alright? Chapter 861. In the face of a willful child, parents could only compromise. Because they dared to hurt themselves to coerce you, and you were never as heartless as you claimed to be. You could really watch them die, and then calmly collect their corpses. Gu Mengmeng immediately relented the moment Qi Xian struggled. Yes, that's right. Doting mothers often spoil their children, but so what? The dying man in front of her was her son, her biological son. Turning around, Gu Mingming's eyes were filled with tears. She looked at Elvis and Leah and said, you two can leave first and return to the stone house we used to stay in temporarily. Elvis did not move, he just frowned and looked at her. I'm begging you. Gu Mengmeng sobbed, her heart aching at the sight of Qixuan's injuries. Clenching his fists tightly, Elvis's final compromise was to wait for her outside the door. Gu Mengmeng nodded. She would not force Qi Xian to stay away. She would be satisfied as long as Qixuan's emotions could calm down. After Elvis and Leah left, Qi Xian shifted his little head and rested his chin on Gu Mingming's knee. He closed his eyes and groaned, clearly in extreme pain. Cole gently wiped away Gu Mingming's tears with his fingers, then placed it into his mouth to taste it. He smiled faintly and said, Salty, are you a pervert? Gu Mengmeng blocked Cole's hand that was reaching towards her again with a look of disgust. Cole lowered his head to look at Qi Xian, before looking up at Gu Mengmeng. He sighed softly. I have already instructed someone to call Dylan over to treat little Xian. Don't worry too much. I won't let anything happen to Xian. Gu Mengmeng stared coldly at Cole. I really don't know what kind of magic potion you fed Qi Xian, that he would actually risk his life to protect you. Bewitching potion. If I really had that kind of thing, shouldn't I give it to you first? Cole continued smiling and did not take Gu Mingming's sarcastic words to heart. He was like a pampered female who indulged herself. No matter what she said, it seemed like she was flirting with him. How, Qi Xian, who was in her arms, called out softly, immediately attracting all her attention. The most annoying thing was that she couldn't understand what her son was saying. If not for the fact that she was worried about Qixuan's serious injuries, she would have immediately gone to sleep and find that lonely old man to discuss things with. She could at least call him father and ask him to give her a language cheat code. He had to bring a translator with him when he was talking to his own son. How humiliating was that? Cole noticed the gloomy look on Gu Mingming's face and for some reason, he was in a good mood. Rubbing Qixuan's little head, he said, Little Xian, don't be afraid. It's not that your mother doesn't like me and doesn't want to leave us. Woo-woo, Qixuan's gaze was a little unfocused as he looked up at Gu Mengmeng, looking so pitiful that it made one's heart ache. Ah, Gu, don't let little Xian worry, alright? Cole's brows were slightly furrowed as he pleaded sincerely. There was no need for a translation. Gu Mengmeng understood what Qi Xian had been sobbing about just by listening to Cole's words. But she really did not understand why were the four little ones and Elvis so incompatible, treating outsiders better than the other? Especially this Cole. Gritting her teeth, Gu Meng Meng could not argue with her severely injured son. Even if she wanted to educate him, she had to wait until he recovered. Chapter 862. Qi Xian seemed to have received a satisfactory answer before he slowly closed his eyes. Gu Meng Meng was instinctively worried about Qi Xuan's action of closing his eyes. He had already been unconscious for a long time. How long would he sleep for? Cole held Gu Mengmeng's hand gently. Don't worry, he will be fine. Gu Mengmeng glared at Cole coldly. She was filled with disgust and wariness. She struggled a few times but was unable to retract her hand. Instead, her large movements dragged Qi Xian, who was lying on her knees. That little cub was in so much pain that he shut his eyes tightly and whimpered. Seeing that Gu Mengmeng had given up struggling, Cole's smile deepened. In your eyes, I am probably the worst person in this world, right? Gu Mengmeng was unwilling to respond to Cole. She just gently wiped away the blood at the side of Qi Xuan's mouth. There were no visible external injuries, but his internal organs must have been injured. Otherwise, why would he be vomiting blood? Cole did not care about Gu Mengmeng's lack of response. He continued. You are the messenger of the beast deity. You are the most righteous and bright person in this world. I am the leader of the stray beasts. I am the darkest and evilest person in this world. Since both of us do not wish for anything to happen to little Xian, he will definitely be safe. Isn't that so? Gu Mengmeng glared at Cole coldly. You do not wish for anything to happen to him, yet you let him be your meat shield. Don't treat me like a fool. Do you dare to say that you did not predict that Qi Xian would rush out, so you purposely did not dodge Elvis's attack? Cole chuckled. If I say that I did not dodge because you wanted to see him beat me up, would you believe me? No. Gu Mengmeng replied. Cole lowered his head. His expression could not be seen clearly. He just said softly, "Ah, Gu. I thought that after meeting Peter and Natalie, you would at least understand me a little better." Gu Mengmeng frowned. She looked at Cole as if he was an idiot. Cole heaved a deep sigh of relief. He laughed self-deprecatingly. Forget it. I know you do not like to hear about me. I will not bother you. You just have to accompany little Xian. He hasn't seen you for a long time. Although he doesn't say it. I know that he misses you very much. Gu Mengmeng didn't reply and neither did Cole. The two of them just sat there quietly until the door to the stone castle was pushed open. Dylan walked in with steady steps. He looked at Cole but didn't say a word. Then, he bowed to Gu Mengmeng and without saying a word, he walked to Qi Xuan's side and started treating him. Dylan's attitude towards Cole surprised Gu Mengmeng. She had thought that with Cole's vengeful personality, Dylan would be the first to suffer when he returned this time. She had thought that with Cole's vengeful personality, Dylan would be the first to suffer. After all, it was Dylan who had helped Gu Mengmeng and Leah to pull Cole down from his position as the leader of the Messenger's tribe to become a stray beast. He had even lost his tail and an arm. But who would have thought that when the two of them met again, they would be so strangely calm? Cole stood beside Gu Mengmeng and chuckled. Are you surprised that I didn't kill him? Gu Mengmeng didn't reply. She just stared at Qi Xian. Her heart was completely captivated by this son of hers. Cole glanced sideways at Gu Mengmeng quietly. You obtained the kiss of the ocean, right? Gu Mengmeng replied with a mm. She didn't want to waste any more time talking to Cole. Chapter 863. Give it to me. Cole stretched out his hand with his palm facing up, placing it in front of Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng glanced sideways at Cole warily. Cole chuckled and asked, "Are you afraid that if I use the kiss of the ocean to activate the Beast King bloodline, Elvis and Leah will be in danger?" Gu Meng Meng raised her brows and thought to herself, this Cole really knows a lot of things. Even a witch doctor like Leah did not know that the 7 treasures could activate the Beast King's bloodline, but Cole was so clear about it. Cole maintained his smile from start to finish, neither cold nor warm. He maintained an appropriate level of propriety, neither too intimate nor too distant. He maintained it at a level where Gu Meng Meng had no reason to fly into a rage but could not easily ignore it. He said, "No matter what, I have been the leader of Sauter for more than 10 years, it's not surprising that I know these things." Cole took a deep breath and raised his head. "I have been at the peak of the 5th level for more than 10 years. With my abilities, I should be able to control the kiss of the ocean. If I really wanted to use it to activate the Beast King bloodline, would you still be willing to give it to me?" Gu Meng Meng remained silent for a moment before chuckling. "Why wouldn't I? This is what we agreed on. I'll gather everything for you, and you'll return my son to me. As for how you spend the ransom, that's your business. It has nothing to do with me." Cole closed in on Gu Meng Meng and looked into her eyes playfully. "Aren't you afraid that I will kill your precious partner after I become the Beast King?" Gu Meng Meng looked up and did not avoid Cole's gaze at all. She returned it with a sharp and cold stare. "Don't forget, I am also a Beast King. Unless I die, no one can harm my mate." Cole straightened his back and widened the distance between him and Gu Meng Meng. With a teasing smile, he said, "So don't worry, I am not using the kiss of the ocean for myself. After all, if my opponent is you, I won't be able to fight at all." Gu Meng Meng scoffed at Cole's words and did not intend to give any response. Cole continued, "You should have realized that the kiss of the ocean can absorb toxins from the body. It's effective on you and it's the same for Qi Xian. So, I will use this treasure on Qi Xian." Gu Meng Meng was stunned. How did he know that the kiss of the ocean would be effective on her? Could it be that Cole even knew about her time with Elvis in St. Nazaire? Wasn't this too fantastical? After all, only Elvis and Gu Meng Meng were present at that time. She did not believe that Elvis would share such a thing with Cole. Cole could see the doubt in Gu Meng Meng's eyes, but he did not answer her. He just smiled and said, "Can you give it to me now? If we have that, I believe Xian's injuries will heal a little faster." Gu Meng Meng retracted her gaze from Cole's face. When she turned to look at Qi Xian, she realized that Dylan had already finished the basic treatment. Gu Meng Meng. Gu Qi Xian Qi her and to Gu King Qi Xian Gu Meng Meng s up. Gu of. Try to avoid doing too much, especially not letting him get hurt again. Oh, and try to keep him calm and peaceful. This way, he will recover faster. Then, this subordinate will take his leave. Chapter 864. Gu Meng Meng didn't say a word and just watched Dylan's departing figure. The people around her were starting to treat her with respect and distance. She had to get used to this kind of relationship. After all, she was the messenger of the beast deity, a high and lonely position. Not everyone could resist the external and internal pressure and still look at her the same way they used to. Cole's disdainful gaze at Dylan was cold and the smile on his lips was tinged with malice. Because he was Gu's man, he stayed. But, it seemed like he was wrong. In this world, I am the only one who can make Gu unhappy. So you are really an eyesore. Cole made a low sound in his throat, as if he was clearing his throat because he was not feeling well. Gu Meng Meng didn't care. Why would she care about Cole's life? But she didn't know that her momentary disappointment and indifference had caused Dylan, who had once helped her, to never appear again. After using the beast language code to give orders to the stray beasts hiding in the dark, Cole accompanied Gu Mengmeng and sat beside Qi Xian. He caressed Qi Xuan's body and observed Gu Mengmeng's reaction from the corner of his eye. After confirming that she didn't notice anything amiss, he reached out his hand and said, "Give me the kiss of the ocean." "You also wish for little Xian to get better soon, don't you?" Gu Mengmeng took out the black pearl from her pocket and handed it to Cole. Cole was a little surprised. He played with the black pearl in his hand and smiled. "So this is the kiss of the ocean." With that, Cole plucked a strand of his hair and pinched it lightly. That strand of hair was as straight as a silver needle. Gu Mengmeng was a little surprised. She was a beast king, right? Why didn't she know such a perverted skill? Snake's memories didn't mention that it could be used like this. Cole gladly accepted the flash of surprise in Gu Mengmeng's eyes. That was a rare emotion she gave him other than disgust and wariness. He naturally cherished it. The index finger and thumb of one hand were pinching the black pearl, while the index finger and thumb of the other hand were pinching one end of the hair. Slowly and gently, the hair was inserted directly into the pearl and went through it. Cole tied the black pearl around Qi Xuan's neck. Then he pried open his mouth and placed the black pearl in his mouth for him to hold. Nudging Qi Xuan's lower jaw gently to prevent the pearl from falling out, Cole rubbed Qi Xuan's head reluctantly. He turned to look at Gu Mengmeng. "All right, with this kiss of the ocean, the poison in little Xian's body will no longer act up. So, I can no longer use Xian, to threaten you. So, are you going to kill me now?" Gu Mengmeng frowned, feeling that things were not so simple. Would Cole be so kind? How could she not believe it? "If you are willing to return Qi Xian to me, I can let bygones be bygones. I will be my messenger of the beast deity and you will be your stray beast king. We will mind our own business and live in harmony. Let bygones be bygones." Cole chuckled helplessly. "If that's the case, I might not be able to return little Xian to you. I want to be the most special existence in all Gu's heart. If I can't especially like and love him, then I will especially hate and loathe him." Aside from the topic, March would be over in 10 days. Su was working hard to save her manuscript. She needed motivation. For example, tickets. Chapter 865. Gu Mengmeng stepped in between Cole and Qi Xian and raised her head. "Sorry, I already know. Now that Qi Xian is fine, do you think you still have the ability to snatch him away from me?" Cole stood at his original spot without moving. "How do you know that he won't want me no matter what after he wakes up?" Gu Mengmeng frowned. Her heart felt stifled. She could not deny that as his biological mother, she did not spend as much time with Qi Xian as Cole. She always had various matters to settle and would often leave her sons to Sandy to take care of. As for her as a mother, she really did not seem to be a competent one. As for Cole, he had been by Qi Xuan's side day and night ever since he had brought him along. He was still a child after all. His thirst for familial love was so strong. It was her negligence that had given Cole a chance. Judging from how he had blocked Elvis's attack for Cole without any regard for his own safety, it was obvious that his need for familial love had reached a certain level. He would definitely look for him after he wakes up. She could easily kill Cole now. But what would happen after that? How would she deal with the psychological damage she had caused to Qi Xian? She had neglected him and failed to provide him with companionship. Then she had deprived him of the consolation he had found. Clenching her fists, Gu Mengmeng's eyes were filled with anger. Cole lowered his head. "It's that gaze, the way he only looks at me. It makes my heart beat faster." Gu Mengmeng took 2 deep breaths and suppressed the irritation in her heart. She said, "Before I change my mind, get lost from my sight." Cole nodded and placed his right hand on his left chest. Yes, my beloved mistress. With that, his gaze swept across the unconscious Qi Xian. Without any hesitation, he turned to leave. The moment he left, Elvis and Leah walked in together. Leah was the first to check on Qi Xuan's injuries. After all, he was much better at handling such things than Dylan. Elvis held Gu Mengmeng in his arms and rubbed his chin against the top of her head. Seeing that she was safe and sound, he finally relaxed. I clearly know that he has no ability to hurt you, but I still can't help but worry. Xiao Meng, as long as I can't see you, I will feel uneasy, as though I will lose you. Can you not disappear from my sight again? Gu Mengmeng pressed her face against Elvis's chest and listened to his breathing and heartbeat. After a while, she said, Cole gave the kiss of the ocean to Qi Xian. The poison in Qi Xuan's body will no longer act up. She looked up at Elvis and asked, Hubby, did I do something wrong? Elvis frowned, his heart aching for the sadness in Gu Mingming's eyes. Gu Mingming's cold, unyielding facade against Cole was completely removed in front of Elvis. She was soft and sensitive, full of guilt towards Qi Xian. I seem to have endless things to deal with every day, but I always throw my sons to the back of my mind. If I had been by their side, Cole would not have had the chance to take advantage of me. She took advantage of the fact that Qi Xian needed to be concerned about her. I didn't give my sons enough love to support their growth. I should have realized this when Burke appeared, but... Hubby, I really wonder if I'm a bad mother. Chapter 866. But, Cole has always been good at manipulating people's hearts. No matter what he says to you, he must have an ulterior motive. If you let him manipulate you, you will fall into his trap. Xiao Meng, you must believe in yourself and our sons. They are wolves, not sheep reared in captivity. They need to be trained to grow sharp fangs and claws. Believe in our sons. Gu Mingming's eyes welled up with tears at Elvis's words. I thought you didn't like them. Gu Mengmeng sobbed. Elvis kissed Gu Mingming's tears away and placed her in his arms. They are flesh that fell from your body. How can I not like them? But... Xiao Meng, what drives one forward is never the faint light in the darkness, but the bottomless abyss behind them. They were born in our family and are destined to have an extraordinary life. If they are not strong and mature, not only will they put themselves in danger, they will also implicate their families and even the tribe to struggle with them in this muddy whirlpool. Sometimes, being heartless is also a form of love. Do you understand? Gu Mengmeng nodded in a daze. She wiped away her tears and said, You understand the rules of survival in the beast world better than me. I believe that your decision is logical. But hubby, my heart still aches for them. Elvis kissed Gu Mingming's brow. It's all right. I will be in charge of the darkness and cruelty. You will be in charge of caring and gentleness. If you want to care for them, do it. If you want to protect them, do it. If you quarrel with me because of them, it's all right too. Anyway, I will give in to you. I will train them into outstanding wolves without making you feel guilty towards them. No one will be able to use them to threaten you anymore. Is that okay? Gu Mengmeng nodded her head heavily before replying, Yeah. Under Li's care, Qi Xuan's body recovered very well. That night, Gu Mengmeng asked Elvis to fetch the 3 little ones from Sandy's house. She decided that it was better for her own sons to be taken care of by herself. 3 days later, Qi Xian slowly opened his eyes. Whimpering weakly, Gu Mengmeng hurried to his side and gently stroked his little head to comfort him. Qi Xian, you're awake. That's great. My sons are so brave. Do you want some water? Or do you want to eat something? Daddy Leah has prepared some meat porridge that is easier to digest. Do you want some? Qi Xian obediently allowed Gu Mengmeng to stroke him. He blinked a few times to adjust to the light and his eyes started darting around, obviously looking for something. Gu Mingming's heart skipped a beat, clearly feeling uneasy. How do you know that he won't want me after he wakes up? Cole's words circled around Gu Mingming's ears. Gu Mengmeng didn't even need anyone to translate for her to easily understand the beast language that Qi Xian was hiding in his throat. He was looking for Cole. Qi Xian, Mama will accompany you, okay? Gu Mengmeng gently wrapped her arms around Qi Xuan's neck and gently kissed his little head. Mummy promises that I will never abandon you guys again. No matter where I go, I will bring the four of you with me. So, forgive Mummy for my negligence in the past and give Mummy a chance to change, alright? Qi Xian nodded. Chapter 867. Qi Xian had to recuperate for half a month. Elvis and Leah discussed that they would not have enough time to stock up on food if they rushed back to St. Nazaire now, so they could only spend the winter in Sauder. So while Qi Xian was recuperating, Leah was responsible for staying at home to take care of Gu Mengmeng and Qi Xian, while Elvis brought the three little ones out to hunt. The four of them carried back piles of prey every day. On this day, the air was extremely cold. Gu Mengmeng could sense that winter had arrived. Leah went up to the second floor of the stone castle to retrieve a beast skin to seal the windows, while Gu Mengmeng sat beside Qi Xian, gently caressing his little head and speaking gently to him from time to time. Suddenly, Qi Xian stood up. Before Gu Mengmeng could rejoice at Qi Xuan's recovery, he suddenly leapt up and dashed towards the door. Qi Xian! Gu Mengmeng exclaimed. Qi Xian paused in his steps and turned to look at Gu Mengmeng deeply. That look seemed to be saying goodbye. Gu Mengmeng wanted to chase after him, but Qi Xian dashed out the door without looking back. At that moment, large snowflakes fell from the sky, blurring their vision and the road ahead. It also blurred Gu Mingming's footsteps. How ironic. The first time she understood her son's intentions was when he turned around. He did not say anything, but Gu Mengmeng knew very well that Qi Xian had gone to look for Cole. Sitting paralyzed on the ground, Gu Mengmeng covered her face and cried silently. When Leah heard the commotion downstairs and rushed downstairs, he only saw Gu Mengmeng sitting at the door, crying pitifully. Qi Xian was already nowhere to be seen. Without needing to ask, Leah knew what had happened. Hugging Gu Mengmeng and patting her back, Leah comforted her gently. Qi Xian is Cole's biggest bargaining chip against you. He will not let anything happen to Qi Xian. Gu Mengmeng hugged Lee's arm and buried her face in his chest. She knew that Cole would not let anything happen to Qi Xian. She was crying because Qi Xuan's resolute back view was like a sharp sword piercing through her heart. Cole's words, how do you know that he will not insist on me after he wakes up? From the start, Gu Mengmeng had been living in fear of losing Qi Xian. And that look from Qi Xian, it was as if he was saying, Mummy, I'm sorry. Goodbye, Mom. Between her and Cole, her Qi Xian had chosen Cole. It wasn't because of the poison, he wasn't forced. Cole didn't even appear in front of him during this period of time. But in Qi Xuan's heart, Cole was already more important than his own mother. Gu Mengmeng felt as if her throat was being gripped tightly by someone. No matter how hard she tried to breathe, she still felt suffocated. She had lost Qi Xian, she had really lost Qi Xian. That feeling was as if someone had used a knife to forcefully cut out a piece of flesh from her heart, causing blood to spurt out. When Elvis and the three little ones returned, Gu Mengmeng had already cried herself to sleep. Leah handed Gu Mengmeng, whose eyes were swollen like peaches, to Elvis. He sighed and said, how about I go look for her? Elvis shook his head and said, if he has his eyes set on Cole, even if you kidnap him back, he will still run away again. Forget it, let him be. My son, Elvis, can be responsible for his own life. Since that was the path he wanted to walk, even his parents had no right to stop him. As for Xiao Meng. Chapter 868. When Gu Mengmeng woke up, she realized there were 3 little ones lying beside her. Why were they lying down? Because they were all in their beast forms. This was very strange, they rarely revealed their beast forms after evolving into half-orcs. Gu Mengmeng was a little worried. She hugged her sons and asked in a hoarse voice, "What's wrong with you guys? Are you feeling unwell?" The little wolves shook their heads and licked Gu Mengmeng's face. They howled and acted coquettishly. Winter is here and their ability to resist the cold is not enough. So their beast forms are the most comfortable and warmest for them. Elvis explained for his sons before carrying Gu Mengmeng up from the pile of little wolves. He kissed her little hand and continued, "Do you want to play in the snow?" Elvis remembered that at this time last year, Gu Mengmeng pestered him to go for a walk in the snow. She said something like, "During the first snowfall, I want to walk in the snow with the person I like. Because as I walk, my hair will turn white." At that time, he was worried that her body was too weak and could not take it, so he rejected her. In the end, he could not stand her coaxing and pestering and finally brought her out. In the end, she fell sick when they returned, but it was also that illness that gave him the chance to mate with her. Now, her body was still petite but she had Snake's Beast King powers. Resisting the cold was no longer a problem, but she could not be as carefree as a child as she was last year. Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, "Forget it, the children are afraid of the cold. I will stay at home with them and not go out." Elvis did not want to force Gu Mengmeng, but the 3 little ones jumped up high and clung onto Gu Mengmeng's legs, looking eager to try. Kanwei had already walked to the door and was circling on the spot, howling at Gu Mengmeng. It was obvious that he was begging her to go out to play. "Want to go out?" Gu Mengmeng asked softly. "Oh woo," the 3 little ones' howls were filled with excitement and anticipation. Gu Mengmeng did not want to disappoint her son, so she smiled and nodded. Leah took the beast skin and wrapped Gu Mengmeng up before standing beside Elvis and leaving the stone castle. Although they were going out to play, they would not go too far. After all, the snow came in a threatening manner and could turn into a storm at any time, engulfing everything in the beast world in silvery white frost. The snow at the entrance had already reached Gu Mengmeng's calves. The 3 little ones were now more muscular than a normal adult wolf, so the depth of the snow was not a threat to them. Seeing snow for the first time, the 3 little ones were obviously a little excited. Their 2 hind legs dug into the ground, sending snow flying high into the air and splashing all over each other. Gu Mengmeng looked at her sons playing happily and a faint smile appeared on her face. It would be great if Qi Xian was here too. Since she was no longer in the mood to play, Gu Mengmeng nestled in Elvis's arms and watched her 3 sons play around. Paw! A snowball smashed onto Elvis's face and some snowflakes splashed onto Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng turned around and saw Leo looking at them with a sneaky smile, while the second snowball was already on its way. Elvis frowned and easily dodged the second snowball. He then smiled at Gu Mengmeng and asked, "Xiao Meng, can I beat him up?" Chapter 869. The 2 adults and 3 kids played around Gu Mengmeng, forcefully smashing the melancholy in Gu Mengmeng's heart into pieces. As the snowflakes splashed on her body, the melancholy slowly dissipated before falling off. Looking at her gradually brightening smile, a pair of eyes hidden under the snow in the distance shone. It was hard to tell if it was peace of mind or loneliness. He just slowly turned around and retreated back the way he came. In a stone house in Sauter, Cole sat on the high seat like a king. His lazy and wanton gaze landed on the stone tablet embedded in the wall. Was Gu throwing a tantrum with him? He could almost imagine the sly smile on her face when she was carving these things. Yeah, she was a cute little fox. Using this stone tablet to tell him that she knew where his abilities came from. So, this stone tablet was carved by Gu thinking of him, right? What a great gift. The sound of a body swaying could be heard from the door. Cole's gaze was gentle as he looked for the source of the sound. Even before he saw anyone, he already knew who it was. Is she all right? Cole asked softly. Qi Xian let out a few muffled sobs. Envious? Then why don't you show yourself? If you are willing to go back, she will be happy. Cole's lips curled into a playful smile. He waved his hand and Qi Xian jumped onto his knees. He lay down with his legs crossed, like an obedient large pet dog. Hearing Qi Xuan's reply, Cole's smile deepened. He rubbed his head and said, Silly son, don't pity me so easily. I am the great demon king of the beast world. Howl, yeah, I know. Cole looked up and closed his eyes. One day, she will be mine. Then, our family will not have to be separated anymore. The snow was getting heavier and the stone castle had already been completely sealed. The structure of the stone castle was more complete than the cave and was closer to the style of modern architecture. There were 2 levels, with 7 rooms upstairs and 4 rooms downstairs. The hall was a more spacious area. Elvis had started a fire here to cook and keep warm. The food was piled up in the room on the first floor, and the 3 cubs did not have their own rooms, so they slept directly in the hall, lying next to the fire, which was also warm. That day, Gu Mengmeng unexpectedly did not let Leah prepare the food. Instead, she personally prepared a sumptuous meal. The 3 little ones circled around Gu Mengmeng, full of curiosity towards the food in their mother's hands. After working for a long time, although the ingredients were limited, they still managed to fill the table. Gu Mengmeng leaned into Elvis's arms and kissed the side of his face lightly. She said, Hubby, happy first anniversary of our mating. Elvis felt as if a warm current had flowed into his heart, making it extremely soft. His eyes seemed to contain the depth of the entire ocean. He said gently, So you've been busy today to celebrate your first year as a partner? Gu Mengmeng nodded. This is an important day for us, isn't it? Yes. Elvis kissed her temple. Actually, to him, from the moment he saw Gu Mengmeng in the lake, every day was an important day. But because of Gu Mengmeng's concern, the day of mating became an important day for Elvis. It was the most important day. Chapter 870. Lee's appearance was a stark contrast to Elvis's. A year ago at this time, he stood guard in the snow outside the cave alone, guarding the door for them. He listened to the ambiguous conversation through the snow and was tortured by it. Then, he finally found a reason to come in and see her, but she used every single word to stab his heart. What maintaining the demeanor of an ex-boyfriend, what parting and being happy with each other, what being strangers from now on, there's only you and me in the world, not us. The 3 little ones did not know the complicated thoughts between the adults, they only knew that the food their mother made was especially delicious. Even if everyone in the world said that Daddy Lee's cooking was the best, but the taste of their mother was the one that satisfied the 3 little ones the most. After the meal, Elvis kissed Gu Mengmeng's face and said, You've worked hard for a day, let Leah bring you upstairs to rest, I'll wash the dishes today. Before Gu Mengmeng could react, Leah had already carried Gu Mengmeng out from Elvis's arms horizontally. But Gu Mengmeng's gaze was filled with conflict. Today was the 1-year anniversary of mating, shouldn't she and Elvis be the ones accompanying each other? Leah kissed Gu Mengmeng's lips with a deep gaze. After closing the door, he said, Mengmeng, do you intend to let this day become my nightmare every year from now on? Gu Mengmeng stared at Leah in a daze, unable to react. Leah placed Gu Mengmeng's little hand by his lips and kissed it, saying, 1 year ago at this time was the darkest and most tragic period of my life. At that time, I didn't want to live anymore because of you. But you cruelly want me to watch you and Elvis intimately every year on this day, reminding me repeatedly of how pathetic I looked when I was struggling outside of your happiness that day. Gu Meng Meng looked down, her heart aching. She had neglected Lee's feelings, forgetting that on the day she and Elvis became partners, he was as miserable as they were blissful. Lowering her head, Gu Meng Meng said, "I'm sorry." Leah placed one hand on the side of her waist and pressed her down. His lips stopped beside her ear and he whispered, "You know very well that I prefer to hear you confess your love more than an apology." Gu Meng Meng nodded. The Gu Meng Meng now was no longer the naive Gu Meng Meng who had just transmigrated. She naturally knew what would happen after Lee's flirting. Blushing, Gu Meng Meng wrapped her arms around Lee's neck and whispered, "Leah, I love you." Leah bit Gu Meng Meng's little earlobe and breathed in a husky and charming voice, "These are the most touching words of love I've ever heard. Meng Meng, let today become our mating day. This way, Elvis and I can celebrate with you every year. I will no longer be a lonely existence outside of your happiness. Let me be a part of your happiness, all right?" But we made it at the end of the rainy season, not now. Gu Meng Meng remembered that the date of their mating was not far from the anniversary of Snake's death. Leah shook his head and said, "Silly girl, you need to inherit something from me before you can truly be considered as my partner." At most, it was considered an engagement. Gu Meng Meng arched her waist slightly and her body subconsciously catered to Lee's teasing. A single sound escaped from her throat. "Meng Meng, let me belong to you completely, all right?" A lingering kiss was followed by a floor of melancholy. "Aside from the topic, hurry, there's no time, hurry up and board the train. Look at the car plate, 4927792773. After boarding the train, look for the administrator to check the tickets. Babes with more than 800 fans can enter the VIP cabin and enjoy the special treatment of overflowing meat. Note, this train is not heading to the kindergarten. Please do not sneak onto the train if you want to go to the kindergarten. This train is not heading to the kindergarten. Please do not sneak onto the train if you want to go to the kindergarten." Chapter 871. Every winter, the flow of time would become a mystery. Gu Meng Meng did not know how long she had slept for and when it was day and night. But when she finally could not endure the empty fort strategy and woke up amidst the waves of protests, she was lying in between Elvis and Leah. She looked up and saw two pairs of eyes staring straight at her. Thinking of the craziness that day, Gu Meng Meng really wanted to find a piece of tofu and knock herself to death. She did not have the face to see Leah or Elvis. Gu Meng Meng sat up and pretended not to see them, walking straight to the door. "Did you not serve her well?" Elvis's voice sounded behind Gu Meng Meng, obviously questioning Leah. This sentence made Gu Meng Meng's hair stand on end. She was like a cat whose acupoints were hit, arching her back as if she had stepped on an electric switch. Leah was confused. It can't be. Her reaction that day was quite satisfactory. "She fainted after that and I stopped because I could not bear to torture her anymore." "Could it be, Do you usually continue after she fainted?" Gu Meng Meng really did not want to listen to Elvis and Leah discuss their experiences of doing sex with her. So she turned her head and glared at them, blushing, "I'm hungry, I want to eat." Seeing her expression, the two of them then understood that Gu Meng Meng was shy and not dissatisfied with Lee's expression. Chuckling, Elvis reached out and opened his arms, saying, "Xiao Meng, come here." "What?" Gu Meng Meng blushed and did not move an inch. "Leah needs time to cook. Lie with me for a while more." Leah had already stood up and walked to Gu Meng Meng's side. He carried her horizontally and placed her back into Elvis's arms. He covered her with a beast skin and kissed her forehead, saying, there will be food soon, don't be anxious. Li's words could not be more serious, but it made Gu Mingming's face turn even redder. Damn fox. It was all his fault for saying eat and eat non-stop that day. Every time she heard the word eat, those indescribable images would replay in her mind and she would soon be traumatized. Although Leah had the intention to continue teasing her, she had slept for a long time after all. Coupled with the intense exercise before sleeping, she was definitely hungry. He was not willing to let his darling Mang Mang starve to death. Thus, he gave up on enjoying the cute look of her getting angry and directly went downstairs to cook. Do you feel any difference in your body? Elvis asked as he adjusted the beast skin covering Gu Mingming's body. Ah. Gu Mingming's brain had turned into paste and she could not react at all. She did not know what Elvis was asking. Elvis stroked Gu Mingming's left ear gently and smiled. Li's mark is clearer and more realistic now. This mating between the two of you is really full of twists and turns. However, since you've already mated with him, you should be able to inherit something from him. Gu Mengmeng buried her face into Elvis's chest. Mating anniversary and burning with another male, she did not even dare to imagine how Elvis came that day. Elvis understood Gu Mingming's thoughts. He hooked her little chin lightly and made her look straight into his eyes, as if he wanted to pour the depth of the entire ocean into her. He said slowly with a low and mellow voice, "As long as I don't lose you, I can endure anything. I'm your partner and so is he. If he suffers on that day every year, you will be sad. And I won't do anything that will make you sad, isn't that right?" Digression. Why was Elvis's first reaction that Leah did not serve her well and not Gu Mingming's shyness? Chapter 872. Gu Mengmeng did not continue discussing this topic. From the day she accepted Leah, she knew that she was destined to be in a state of debt when it came to matters of the heart. Elvis and Leah treated her well, so she could only be grateful and try her best to love them even more. Leaning into Elvis's arms, she rubbed against his chest and listened to his heartbeat. Gu Mengmeng felt at ease, as if she had found someone to rely on. Elvis stroked her hair lovingly, letting her nestle in his arms like a docile and lazy cat. He did not wish for his compromises to become a burden in Gu Mingming's heart. In the beast world, any half-orc female would have more than 10 males in her family. A complete female's family would have 30 to 50 members, and the first beauties of each tribe would have more than 100 partners. But Gu Mengmeng only had him and Leah. Even so, she always felt that she owed them and this made his heart ache. What he gave was not enough, but she already felt that she was too greedy and always took care of their emotions carefully. How good would it be if she could be more willful? That way, she would be much happier. As the food in the house had all been processed, coupled with Li's superb culinary skills, the meal was prepared very quickly. When Gu Mengmeng smelled the aroma of the meat and woke up, Leah was already standing downstairs, using stone bowls to serve rice and meat to everyone. Gu Mengmeng ate while looking at her 3 sons, her heart filled with warmth. If only Qi Xian was here too. Just as she was thinking, a strange sound came from the corner. Elvis and Leah turned around sharply. Gu Mengmeng immediately shielded her 3 sons behind her, then stared at the sound with her guard up. 2 stone slabs were pushed open and a person walked out from the corner. Without seeing his face clearly, Gu Mengmeng could already tell who it was from his scent. Cole. Cole did not have time to care about Elvis and Li's guard up. He walked straight to Gu Mengmeng and said with a serious expression, "Ah, Gu, follow me. Something happened to little Xian." Gu Mengmeng felt as if all the blood in her body froze in an instant and her mind exploded. Without thinking about anything else, she walked towards Cole. Elvis held her waist and hugged her. "Xiao Meng, calm down." Gu Mengmeng turned back to look at Elvis in a daze. Her entire body was trembling and she could not utter a complete sentence. Calm down. How could he calm down? Qi Xian was her son. He was the one who had lost the most money and wanted to make it up to her. It was a piece of flesh that had fallen off her body. "Ah, Gu, you know that I won't use little Xian to lie." Cole grabbed Gu Mingming's wrist and said, "Time is tight, I don't have time to explain." She then raised her head to look at Elvis and Leah. "Follow me if you're worried. Don't waste my time." Elvis pushed Cole's hand away and carried Gu Mengmeng in his arms. He turned back to look at Leah and said, "Stay at home and take care of the children. I will accompany Xiao Meng." Leah nodded. Although he was worried about Gu Mengmeng and Cole being alone together, if this was Cole's ploy to lure them away, Mengmeng would go crazy if anything happened to the three little ones. Chapter 873. Gu Mengmeng did not have a good sense of direction to begin with. After turning left and right for a few rounds underground, Gu Mengmeng was even more confused about north, south, east and west. Only when a ray of light appeared in front of her did she know that she had arrived. Coming out from a secret door that was similar to the entrance, Gu Mengmeng was stunned for a moment before realizing that she was in Sauter's meeting room. She had memorized the 36 stratagems on the wall, and a white tiger skin was laid on a stone chair. Qishuan's small body was curled up on the animal skin, looking like he was in extreme pain. He gritted his teeth and trembled incessantly, whimpering sounds coming from his throat. Even though she did not understand animal language, she could tell from her maternal instincts that the child was crying out in pain. Gu Mingming's tears streamed down her face. She could not care less about anything else as she rushed over and hugged Qi Xian in her arms to comfort him. "Don't be afraid, little Xian. Mummy is here." Elvis stepped forward and pulled at Qishuan's eyelids and ears. "It's all right, don't worry. It's just evolution. Evolve." Gu Mengmeng looked at Elvis with reddened eyes, as if she was a drowning person grabbing onto a life-saving straw. Elvis nodded. "It's just a normal evolution. He's almost 1 year old, it's time for him to evolve." But Heda and the rest weren't like this when they evolved. Gu Mengmeng sobbed. This was the reality. No matter how strong a woman was, she would still be weak when it came to the problem of her children. That was the softness and sensitivity that they couldn't touch. Elvis remained silent. He could not tell Gu Mengmeng that it was not that Heda and his brothers were not in pain when they were evolving, but because they were too worried about her, they forcefully released all the pain in an instant. The process was too fast for her to notice. And when it came to evolution, from beast form to human form, almost every inch of bone had to be broken, reassembled, broken again, and reassembled again. If that kind of pain erupted in a short period of time, ordinary beast men wouldn't be able to bear it at all. At best, they would fail to evolve. At worst, they would be crippled or even killed on the spot. So even though he had never mentioned it, Elvis was actually quite proud of the fact that all three of them had successfully evolved into half-orcs. But he could not tell Gu Mengmeng about this. It was enough for her to worry about Qi Xian. If the problem of the three little ones' evolution was mentioned, she would definitely blame herself even more. Instead of blaming herself, it was better to blame him. Elvis's expression was indifferent as he said, "Because the old injuries on his body have not fully healed, so it will be harder for him to evolve. Just get through it. It'll be fine." Gu Mengmeng glared coldly at Cole. If not for his scheme, Qi Xian would not have been injured by Elvis. This debt would naturally be placed on his head. Cole did not think that Elvis was trying to push the blame onto him. After all, he was best at manipulating people's hearts. From what he saw, Elvis's words were just trying to shift the blame onto someone else. But it didn't matter. Just like what he said, if he couldn't become someone that Gu Mengmeng especially liked and especially loved, then she would hate him even more. In any case, it wasn't just one or two things that she hated about him. One more or one less thing made no difference. Hence, Cole did not refute and only said, evolution is the critical period for Qi. He does not have enough battle experience and has too little experience. I'm afraid that he doesn't have enough power to support his evolution. Even though he has the support of the kiss of the ocean, his body is still too weak due to the poison. So, Gu, you have to help him. Out of topic, today's update has ended. Regarding the issue of breaking updates in March, Su wants to apologize to everyone here. The editor requested that I have 250,000 chapters in stock. Yes, she changed her words. She clearly said 200,000 previously, but I only have 140,000 chapters in stock now, so I won't have a chance to be recommended in March. The editor's strict order is that I have to save 250,000 chapters in April, so I may not appear in the fan groups and message boards very often. But baby, even if I don't appear, you all must believe that I love all of you. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.